T-34.
The hot battles of the Eastern Front helped the T-34 to become one of the main Soviet symbols in the victory over Germany. But once the war was over, thousands of intact but unneeded combat vehicles were sent to the warehouses. In the mid-1940s, the Army began an upgrade process, which meant that the limelight was looking away from the 34. Still, the tank
T-34도
would soon
진짜
enjoy
개량을
its
많이
newfound
했죠.
popularity in numerous local conflicts all over the world. The Korean War was the first such episode. North Korea
한국
received more
전쟁에서
than
나왔다.
200 tanks from the Soviet Union and used them
지금
extensively
자꾸
early in the
한국
conflict.
언급하는
The
거
command
보니까
primarily
틀이
saw the
나오겠는데, 그죠?
T-34-85 as an infantry support vehicle
뭔가
to be
분위기
used during
조성하는데.
assault operations. The tank was found to be very efficient in that role since the other side simply had nothing to counteract it with. Everything changed after the intervention of the UN forces. North Korea lost
처음에는
numerous tanks to
북한하고
airstrikes
남한
and in
따로
battles
나왔다가
against
나중에
Shermans,
합해져가지고
Pershings,
한국들이
and
이렇게.
Pattons. By the fall of 1950, only a few dozen of the 200 T-34s were left at the disposal of North Korea. Nevertheless, the tank proved to be a major force in the war and gained the reputation of a decent assault vehicle. Even shoulder-launched ATGM
전쟁의 트라우마
at the time
때문에
couldn't
우리나라는
always
화력
penetrate
특구가
its
됐죠.
armor, while its
우리도
own guns
탱크
could
있었으면.
sometimes damage even
그죠?
the latest
예.
patents.
야포가
A few years
있었으면.
later, the T-34
야,
joined
북한은
the Suez
반대로
Crisis of
맨날 그
1956.
뭐냐
That time, the Soviet tanks were
하늘에서
used in
폭격
defense,
받아가지고
with the Israeli side
방공
losing
능력
dozens of
그걸
Shermans,
엄청나게 발전시켰다
AMX-13s,
그러더라고.
and APCs. The Egyptian army also used the T-34 later, during the Six-Day War. The legendary World War II machine held its ground against infantry and other outdated tanks, but could do nothing against more modern vehicles like the Centurion tanks. In later years, the T-34-85 was used numerous
348 저
times by the
포탑은
armies of socialist
때44
nations. For
포탑이죠.
instance, the
보면
Cuban
그죠?
Revolutionary Forces used it in 1961
때44
to repel
포탑이죠.
the American invasion. The T-34 has also played a notable role during the Vietnam War. The Northern
야,
Army
베트남
first
전에도
used them
있었나?
as a training vehicle, but later sent them to actual combat. Like the DPRK during the Korean War, North Vietnam used the T-34 primarily as an infantry supporter, while the bulk of its armed forces consisted of more modern vehicles. Some 34s were retrofitted to become platforms for anti-aircraft guns. The last
야,
times when this
대공포올림 버전도
iconic
있어.
tank was used were during the hostilities in Cyprus and Angola, in the
아, 갑자기 그 생각난다.
and the
저 뭐냐
Sino-Vietnamese wars,
안에 강아지하고
as well
같이
as battles
tas던
in
T-34
Yugoslavia
시리즈
and
있었던 것
Yemen.
같은데
Despite
월탱에서.
being outdated for all intents and purposes,
맞나?
this Soviet machine
그거
still had a
생각나는데?
good gun and provided
갑자기
its crew
생각납니다.
with some
옛날에
protection.
월탱에
But with time,
승무원
it
중 한
lost
명이
all
강아지.
relevance, even as an auxiliary vehicle, because its
뭐,
module
T-34 아닐
was
수도 있는데요.
deteriorated and spare parts
어렴풋이
were
기억이 나요.
nowhere to be found.
너무 특이해서.
Still, some
골장비였는데.
T-34s survived all the way into the 21st century. Formerly, the legendary T-34-85 remains in service
아,
with
독일
some countries
장교가
even today.
가장 원했던
albeit
탱크가
not as an actual
T-34
combat.
8호인가 저거였다 그러는데. 티그 이런 게 아니라.